answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Well, here it is, 12 days into 2011, and I'm going to give you my top 10 list for 2010. I know, it's a stereotypical pothead joke, but this is something that I got through email. It was actually an article written up on Counterpunch about 14 drugs that were extremely dangerous in 2010. We're talking not your illegal drugs, we're talking prescription medications, prescription drugs that are legal in all 50 states. And out of those 10, I identified 9, or out of those 14, excuse me, I identified 9 that would be easily replaced by the use of cannabis, which, as we know, doesn't kill anyone, is completely non-toxic, and is very low in rate of dependence. And an extra bonus drug that I pulled up at the end here to make this top 10 list of drugs that were far more dangerous in 2010 than cannabis ever could be. Let's begin with the number 10 drug here. According to our research compiled by our own Paul Armentano in the new edition of Normal's Emerging Clinical Applications for Cannabis and Cannabinoids, a review of the scientific literature 2000 to 2011, quote, the use of a standardized extract of cannabis sativa evoked a total relief in an experimental model of neuropathic pain. Now, in the pharmaceutical world, Pfizer's Lyrica, Milan Pharmaceuticals' Topamax, and GlaxoSmithKline's Lamictal are drugs that are commonly prescribed for pain and migraine. Their side effects? All 3 drugs increase the risk of suicidal thoughts and behaviors according to their mandated labels, in addition to the memory and hair loss patients report. So you go bald and you have suicidal thoughts and behaviors, but at least you forget them later on. Yeah, those are the drugs that are allowed: Lyrica, Topamax, and Lamictal, not cannabis. Our number 9 drug of top 10 drugs that harmed more people in 2010 than cannabis ever could. The use of cannabis as an antidepressant has been anecdotally reported for decades, and recent research shows that in low doses, it can have an antidepressant effect, but it seems to reverse if one takes too high a dose. Regardless, you're better off with cannabis than with the side effects of Eli Lilly's Prozac, GlaxoSmithKline's Paxil, Pfizer's Zoloft, and other drugs known as SSRIs, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which, in addition to 4,200 published reports of SSR-related violence, including Columbine, Red Lake, and NIU shootings, SSRIs can cause serotonin syndrome and gastrointestinal bleeding when taken with certain drugs. Paxil is linked to birth defects. The number 7 drug that caused more damage in 2010 than cannabis ever could. If you combine the first 2 conditions we talked about, pain and depression, which we've shown cannabis to be effective at treating, and now you take addressed by a class of drugs known as selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, or SNRIs. Pfizer's Effexor, Eli Lilly's Cymbalta, and Pfizer's Pristiq are commonly marketed in a crossover fashion for both depression and pain sufferers who get all the same risks of side effects of the SSRIs that we listed above, plus SNRIs are harder to quit than SSRIs. 739,000 websites address Effexor withdrawal. The number 6 of the top 10 drugs more dangerous than cannabis in 2010. Dr. Donald Tashkin found that people who smoke marijuana have not only less head, neck, and lung cancer risk than those who smoke cigarettes, but actually also have lower risk than those who don't smoke at all. Some of my friends have told me smoking marijuana helped address the cravings as they were trying to quit smoking tobacco, but whether it actually helps medically has not been studied yet. What is known is that Pfizer's popular anti-smoking drug Chantix is much more likely to affect your mental health. After 397 FDA cases of possible psychosis, 227 domestic reports of suicidal behaviors, and 28 actual suicides, the government banned pilots, air traffic controllers, and interstate truck and bus drivers from taking the anti-smoking drug Chantix in 2008. All right, let's get back to it. Our number, this will be the number 6 of the top 10 drugs. Number 5, well, on the count, I probably messed it up. Anyway, many a toker can relate that they use marijuana at the end of a long, busy, stressful day to relax and unwind, especially if they're having a tough time getting to sleep. The popular sleeping pill, Sanofi Aventis's Ambien, you may remember from the story of U.S. Representative Patrick Kennedy crashing his car in a fit of sleep driving. Law enforcement officials say it has increased traffic accidents from people who drive in a blackout and don't even recognize arresting officers. So take Ambien to go to sleep. You might end up sleep driving. Take weed to go to sleep, and you go to sleep. The next on our list of top 10 drugs more harmful in 2010 than cannabis, we have, THC may have the most powerful tumor-inhibiting properties known to medicine, something our government has been aware of since 1974. There are at least 4 different scientific studies showing cannabinoids to inhibit the growth of breast cancer cells. But then legal cannabis would severely curtail the sales of AstraZeneca's tamoxifen breast cancer prevention drug. As a breast cancer prevention drug, an American Journal of Medicine study found the average life expectancy increase from tamoxifen was 9 days. Public Citizen says for every case of breast cancer prevented on tamoxifen, there is a life-threatening case of blood clots, stroke, or endometrial cancer. Another of the top 10 drugs that are more harmful than marijuana in 2010. ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, affects millions of Americans. Recently, new research has shown that cannabis can have very positive results for those trying to control that disorder. However, we're much more likely to hear of someone with ADHD using Novartis's Ritalin, Johnson & Johnson's Concerta, Eli Lilly's Strattera, Shire's Adderall, and especially on children with ADHD. ADHD drugs, quote, rob kids of their right to be kids, their right to grow, and their right to experience their full range of emotions, and their right to experience the world in its full hue of colors, says Anatomy of an Epidemic author Robert Whitaker. And another drug in our top 10 list here. As strange as it may seem, many patients with asthma report using cannabis to help open their restricted airways. Cannabis is a bronchodilator and can be used in a vaporized form to avoid the respiratory distress from cannabis smoke. But cannabis is incapable of killing you, unlike the long-acting beta agonists Foradil Aerolyzer, GlaxoSmithKline's Severant Discus and Advair, and AstraZeneca's Symbicort, which are often used to treat asthma symptoms. Studies link them to an increase in asthma deaths, especially in African Americans and children. They may have contributed to 5,000 deaths, said Dr. David Graham at FDA hearings about the controversial asthma drugs. Another drug more dangerous than marijuana in 2010. Another set of asthma-controlled drugs known as leukotriene receptor agonists are also far more dangerous to you than vaporizing cannabis, like Merck's Singulair and AstraZeneca's Accolate. Original FDA reviewers said asthma control deteriorates on Singulair, and it may not be safe in children. Last month, Fox TV reported Singulair, Merck's top-selling drug, is suspected of producing aggression, hostility, irritability, anxiety, hallucinations, and night terrors in kids, symptoms that are being diagnosed as ADHD, which of course you can go back and get a different drug to take care of that. And finally, while not technically a medical use, many people use cannabis as a way to relax, to have fun, and to socialize with others. Stress can be very damaging to one's body and mind, and cannabis is one of the most popular drugs used to control it. The most popular drug for socialization and relaxation, of course, is alcohol, marketed as Anheuser-Busch InBev's Budweiser, Miller Coors Coors Light, Pabst Blue Ribbon, and Boston Beer Company's Sam Adams. While moderate consumption of alcohol may have some minor health benefits, habitual overconsumption, according to health check systems, can lead to arthritis, cancer of the liver, pancreas, rectum, breast, mouth, pharynx, larynx, and esophagus, fetal alcohol syndrome, heart disease, raised blood pressure, raised blood lipids, and raised risk of stroke and heart disease, hyperglycemia, a raised blood glucose, hypoglycemia, a lowered blood glucose for those who have diabetes, kidney disease, liver disease, alcoholic hepatitis and cirrhosis, malnutrition, the risk of protein energy malnutrition from low intakes of protein, calcium, iron, vitamin A, vitamin C, thiamine, vitamin B6, and riboflavin, and impaired absorption of calcium, phosphorus, vitamin D, and zinc, nervous disorders, neuropathy, dementia, balance and memory problems, obesity, psychological disturbances such as depression, anxiety, and insomnia. So, why in the world would we prevent people from using the safe, natural, effective, non-toxic herb cannabis with so many proven benefits and so little risk of side effects? Why would we force people to take a plethora of pills with proven dangerous side effects? Why would we celebrate the use of poisonous alcohol and demonize the smoking of a benign weed? Well, for answers, I give you the 2010 reported corporate revenues of the companies listed in our top 10 list. Johnson & Johnson, $61.9 billion. Pfizer, $50 billion. GlaxoSmithKline, $45.8 billion. Novartis, $44.2 billion. Sanofi Aventis, $41.99 billion. AstraZeneca, $32.8 billion. Merck & Company, $27 billion. Eli Lilly, $21 billion. Anheuser-Busch InBev, $16 billion. Miller Coors, $3 billion. Pabst, $500 million. Boston Beer Company, $460 million. Oh, and the 2010 reported corporate revenues from every legal cannabis producing company in America combined, 0. So there you have it, the top 10 drugs in America more dangerous to you than cannabis. And if you want to know why we can't grow that free-flowing, free-growing plant that has such a low risk of dependence, that is so wonderful in so many ways as a medicine, as a social relaxant, and of course as industrial hemp, you need only follow the money. That's about, what, $500 billion worth of companies there that have